Stop, chosen one. Take a breath and don't scroll. This moment was arranged, not stumbled upon. Out of all the noise, all the distractions, all the other voices competing for your attention, this is what found you, as if time itself slowed down just enough for heaven to whisper your name. You weren't late. You weren't early. You arrived at the exact second this message was released for you. There's a reason your heart feels alert right now, like something unseen just stepped into the room. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for a moment, hit subscribe and comment, "I receive," if your spirit is already responding. Because this message is about to speak directly to you. This isn't a button, it's a signal. A quiet agreement between you and the timing that brought you here. Chosen one, I know you've been carrying things you don't talk about. The silent calculations, the late night thoughts about money, direction, and whether you missed a step somewhere along the way. You've smiled through confusion. You've stayed strong while your spirit asked questions your mouth never spoke. You've survived battles no one applauded, moments when light felt distant and the shadow felt heavy, but you kept walking anyway. This message isn't here to shame you or rush you. It's here to recognize you, to tell you that the pressure you've been feeling isn't random. It's a signal. When something is about to shift, awareness always comes first. Heaven never moves without first opening your eyes. That tight feeling in your chest, that sense that something is about to happen, that's not anxiety. That's alignment approaching. You've been investigated by life, tested in quiet ways, refined in seasons where answers came slowly. But here's the revelation. The delay was never denial. The confusion was never failure. It was preparation happening in shadow so you'd be ready to carry what's coming in the light. Chosen one, this message didn't arrive to scare you. It arrived to position you. Today is not just another day. It's a threshold, a countdown moment, a divine interruption before the window closes and the next chapter opens. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear next doesn't just explain what is happening, it reveals why now. And once that truth surfaces, you'll understand why this message could only reach you today. Chosen one, let's begin here with timing, because timing is the first language of the divine. This message is not reaching you by chance, and it's not reaching you late. It's arriving at the exact moment when staying unaware would cost you more than you realize. Have you noticed how certain words only land when your spirit is finally quiet enough to hear them? That's what's happening now. This isn't coincidence. It's precision. Messages like this don't float randomly through the air looking for just anyone. They arrive when a season has ripened, when a situation has reached its limit, and when your inner world is finally prepared to recognize truth without resisting it. You are hearing this now because something in your life is ready to move. But movement requires awareness first. Without awareness, change can pass by unnoticed. And heaven will not allow you to miss what's meant for you. Think about the delays you've experienced, the waiting, the moments when nothing seemed to shift no matter how much effort you gave. Those pauses weren't empty. They were instructional. They were shaping your perception, strengthening your discernment, and teaching you how to recognize alignment when it finally appears. Can you see now that if this message had come earlier, you might have dismissed it? And if it came later, you might have already paid a price for not knowing? This is why the timing matters. Delay isn't always about slowing things down. Sometimes delay is about protecting you until you're ready to see clearly. Right now, your spirit is alert. Your questions are closer to the surface. Your patience has been tested enough that you're no longer romanticizing struggle. That's the posture awareness requires. That's why this message can finally reach you. There's also something else happening here. Awareness doesn't just inform, it interrupts. It stops old patterns mid-motion. It gives you a chance to choose differently before momentum locks you into another cycle. That's why hearing this now matters so much. If you kept moving forward without this insight, you might repeat something that no longer belongs in your future. And ask yourself honestly, haven't you already outgrown certain patterns, even if they're still familiar? This message is reaching you now because your inner world has shifted enough to support a new outcome. Your values are clearer. Your tolerance for confusion is lower. Your desire for peace is stronger than your need to prove anything. That combination is not accidental. It's preparation. When awareness arrives, it's because you're finally strong enough to handle what you're out to sea. So don't rush past this moment. Let it settle. Let it open your perception gently but fully. You are not being warned out of fear. You are being invited into clarity. And clarity is always the doorway to change. Stay present, chosen one. Because now that awareness has arrived, the next movement can finally begin. Chosen one, let's talk about what the phrase 10 seconds left truly means. Because it was never meant to scare you. Heaven does not speak in panic, it speaks in precision. This isn't a countdown to loss, it's a call to attention. A moment where time narrows just enough to help you see clearly. Have you noticed how the most important realizations often arrive suddenly, without warning, as if the world pauses to make room for truth? When a window is short, it doesn't mean it's weak, it means it's powerful. Think about it. Some doors stay open so long that we walk past them without urgency. But others appear briefly, glowing with significance, demanding presence. That's what this moment represents. A brief intersection between awareness and choice. You are not being rushed, you are being invited to notice. And noticing changes everything. This kind of timing shows up when clarity matters more than comfort. When staying distracted would be easier, but seeing the truth will set you free. The 10 seconds is symbolic of a spiritual threshold, a point where indecision gives way to insight. You don't need all the answers right now. You only need to be awake. Can you feel that quiet alertness rising in you? The sense that something deserves your full attention? Moments like this pass quickly, but their impact echoes for years. One realization can redirect an entire path. One pause can prevent a mistake you would have carried for a lifetime. Heaven doesn't always announce change loudly. Sometimes it whispers, knowing only those who are ready will stop and listen. And the fact that you're here tells me something about you. You're not asleep anymore. This is also why the moment feels intense but calm at the same time. Urgency without chaos. Focus without fear. That balance is intentional. Fear would scatter you. Calm sharpens you. Right now, you're being positioned to choose wisely, not react emotionally. And that choice doesn't require speed. It requires presence. Are you willing to slow your thoughts just enough to hear what's being shown to you? The truth is, clarity is fragile when ignored, but unstoppable once embraced. This window is not about doing more. It's about seeing differently, about recognizing what's been trying to get your attention for a while now. Patterns, feelings, repeated thoughts you've brushed aside. The 10 seconds is your reminder that awareness doesn't wait forever, but it always arrives right on time. So stay here, stay present. Let this moment stretch just enough for insight to land. You're not being tested, you're being trusted. Trusted to notice, trusted to choose, trusted to step into alignment before momentum carries you elsewhere. And once this clarity settles in, chosen one, you'll realize something powerful. Even a few seconds of awareness can change the direction of an entire life. Chosen one, this part of the message goes deeper, into the places you don't post about, don't explain, and don't even fully name to yourself. What you've been carrying hasn't always been visible, but it has been heavy. Money stress that sits quietly in the back of your mind. Mental pressure that shows up when the room gets silent. Worries you learned to manage instead of share. You didn't complain, you adapted. You didn't break, you endured. But endurance, even when it's strong, still leaves weight behind. Can you feel how long you've been holding your breath? You've been strong in silence, and that strength was real. It took discipline to keep going when numbers didn't add up, when answers didn't arrive on time, when plans required constant adjustment. You learned how to stretch, how to wait, how to smile while calculating survival in your head. And no one applauded that. No one saw the internal negotiations, the late night thinking, the quiet prayers that weren't dramatic, just honest. Have you noticed how rarely you allowed yourself to say, "This is heavy"? This message meets you in the place you didn't speak out loud. Not where you appeared confident, but where you were tired of pretending everything was fine. It reaches the part of you that learned to be self-reliant because asking felt risky. The part that carried responsibility alone because you didn't want to burden anyone else. Heaven sees that version of you, not as weak, but as weary. And weariness is not failure. It's a signal that support is needed.
What you've been carrying has shaped you, but it was never meant to define you. Stress sharpened your awareness. Pressure refined your priorities. Silence taught you discernment. But none of those lessons require you to stay under the weight forever. Ask yourself this gently. If this season was only meant to teach you strength, why would it need to last longer than the lesson? There's something relieving about being seen without having to explain. That's what this moment offers. You don't need the perfect words. You don't need to justify your feelings. The fact that this message resonates is already proof that your inner experience has been acknowledged. Sometimes validation doesn't come from people. It comes from timing. And timing has a way of speaking directly to the heart. Right now, you're being reminded that you don't have to carry everything alone anymore. Not the pressure, not the worry, not the constant mental calculations. This isn't about dropping responsibility. It's about redistributing weight, about allowing clarity to replace strain and direction to replace constant effort. Can you imagine what it would feel like to think without tension for once? Stay present with this realization. You've done enough surviving, enough holding it together quietly. This message didn't arrive to expose you. It arrived to meet you with understanding. And as that understanding settles in, something inside you can finally soften. Because being strong in silence was necessary for a season. But relief begins when silence is no longer required. Chosen one, what's about to shift may not arrive as fireworks or sudden applause. But it will arrive as direction. And direction is far more powerful than instant change. When heaven moves, it often adjusts your orientation before it alters your circumstances. Right now, you're standing at the moment where confusion begins to loosen its grip. Not because everything is solved, but because clarity is finally permitted to enter. Have you noticed how peace starts returning before answers do? This shift doesn't overwhelm you. It steadies you. The noise in your mind begins to quiet. The constant second-guessing softens. Where there was fog, there is now a faint outline of what comes next. And that outline matters. Real change doesn't begin with the whole staircase revealed. It begins when the next step becomes visible enough to trust. Isn't it true that uncertainty feels heavier than effort ever did? Confusion fades not all at once, but in layers. First, you stop blaming yourself. Then, you stop forcing solutions that never fit. Finally, you realize that clarity isn't something you chase. It's something that arrives when resistance ends. This is that moment. The internal pressure you've been carrying starts to release because you're no longer fighting the unknown. You're listening to it, and listening changes everything. What's shifting now is your relationship with decision-making. Fear no longer dominates the process. You're not reacting, you're responding. Instead of asking, "What if this fails?" you begin asking, "What aligns?" That subtle change in questioning opens doors you couldn't see before. Alignment reveals paths that effort alone never could. Can you feel how much lighter choices become when they're guided instead of forced? The next step may appear small, even ordinary. A conversation, an idea, a moment of realization. But don't underestimate it. Direction compounds. One aligned step leads to another, and suddenly you're moving forward without the constant weight of uncertainty. This is how stability is built. Not through dramatic leaps, but through steady clarity. The kind that feels calm instead of chaotic. this shift also brings something else: trust in your own perception. You begin to recognize what feels right without needing constant validation. Your inner compass strengthens. You don't rush ahead, but you don't freeze either. You move with intention. That balance is rare, and it's earned. You didn't arrive here by accident. You arrived here by endurance. So don't rush this moment. Let direction settle in gently. Let clarity unfold naturally. You don't need the entire future mapped out. You only need the next honest step. And now, for the first time in a while, that step is becoming visible. Stay present, chosen one. Because once direction is restored, forward movement becomes inevitable. And this is exactly how real change begins. Chosen one, this is where understanding deepens. Because what you're receiving right now carries two energies at once. It is a warning, and it is a gift. And those two are not opposites. In the spiritual realm, warnings don't arrive to threaten you. They arrive to protect you. Gifts don't arrive to spoil you. They arrive to prepare you. This message does both at the same time, and that's why it feels so significant. Have you noticed how rare it is to be warned before something is lost? A warning is an act of care. It means something valuable is within reach, and heaven refuses to let you miss it through distraction, exhaustion, or delay. Warnings are not loud alarms meant to scare you into panic. They are quiet nudges meant to sharpen your focus. They say, "Pay attention here. This moment matters." And the fact that you can feel the weight of this message tells you something important. You're being trusted with awareness, not forced into fear. At the same time, this message is a gift of timing, a gift of clarity, a gift of choice. Gifts prepare you internally for what's coming externally. Without preparation, even blessings can feel overwhelming. Without awareness, opportunities can pass unnoticed. This message is equipping you so that when the next moment arrives, you don't second-guess, hesitate, or shrink back. You'll recognize it. Can you sense how preparation brings peace even before change appears? What makes this both a warning and a gift is that it intervenes before regret is necessary. Many people only understand after something has already slipped away. But you're being given insight in advance. That's not common. That's intentional. It means what's ahead requires you to be awake, present, and aligned. Not rushed, not anxious, simply aware. Awareness is the highest form of protection there is. This message is also keeping you from missing what matters next. Not what's loud, not what's urgent, but what's meaningful. The next step in your journey may not announce itself dramatically. It may arrive subtly, as a realization, an invitation, or a decision that feels small but carries long-term impact. Warnings help you slow down enough to recognize significance when it appears. Ask yourself honestly, how many important moments in life are quiet rather than obvious? There's also grace in this moment. Grace that says, you don't have to learn everything the hard way. Grace that says correction doesn't require pain. Grace that meets you before exhaustion turns into discouragement. This is not about fixing something you broke. It's about guiding you towards something you're ready to receive. So let this message settle without pressure. You're not being tested. You're being prepared, protected from distraction, positioned for clarity, guarded against missing what aligns with your future. That's why this moment feels sacred rather than stressful. Warnings that come with peace are always divine. Stay open, chosen one. Let this dual energy do its work. Because when a message arrives as both a warning and a gift, it means something important is close. and you are being carefully guided to meet it fully awake. Chosen one, this is the moment where action begins. Not through movement, but through stillness. What you should do immediately is pause. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is. When awareness arrives, rushing is the fastest way to miss it. Heaven does not compete with noise. It waits for quiet. So pause, not as an escape, but as an act of alignment. Can you allow yourself to stop long enough to actually feel what's shifting inside you? Breathe deeply, intentionally. Breath resets the nervous system and opens space for clarity. Fear tightens the chest and narrows vision. Calm expands perception. When you breathe, you tell your body it's safe to listen instead of react. You don't need to solve anything in this moment. You don't need to make declarations or dramatic decisions. You simply need to be present. Presence is where discernment speaks most clearly. Now listen, not just with your ears, but with your awareness. What thoughts keep resurfacing? What ideas feel gentle but persistent? What options suddenly feel heavier or lighter than before? Listening fully means letting insight rise without interrupting it with doubt or urgency. Fear will try to rush you into action so you don't notice what's actually being revealed. But wisdom moves slower than fear, and it lasts longer. Are you willing to trust that clarity doesn't need to shout to be real? Do not rush from fear. Fear-driven movement often feels productive, but it creates cycles rather than progress. It pushes you to act at life instead of moving with it. Right now, speed is not your ally. Awareness is. This moment is not asking for reaction. It's asking for recognition. Recognition of patterns. Recognition of direction. Recognition of what no longer fits. That recognition is the advantage. Awareness right now creates advantage later. This is how people step ahead without force. This is how mistakes are avoided before they're made. This is how timing works in your favor instead of against you. When you see clearly, your next step requires less effort and produces more stability. One calm decision made from awareness outweighs 10 rushed decisions made from fear. Can you feel how much power there is in that? This pause is not passive. It is strategic. It positions you ahead of confusion, ahead